Trevor, is that you trying to do the night?
Trying?
Oh my God!
Yeah, is that
Trying?
like? Are we like? Is that like our ESPN jingle there, guys?
Yeah, dude.
Creepy photos.
Early bird gets the
We're
word. He's
here.
making
We're
up.
still live.
He's making
Kinda.
up for missing most of Wednesday's show.
Yeah, he was. He's been working harder. You know, they've been paving down in Buchanan.
You know what? And this podcast is for the blue collar man.
Yeah, it's exactly. We're the crypto bros and the blue collar man.
Yeah.
Like the people that don't have a voice in the world, we give them a voice.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what we do. Jerry, your face looks like it's red.
Yeah, I didn't even get burned. I've been inside all weekend. I went to a wedding. like I have not been outdoors all week. We're trying a new thing out here.
You went to a wedding? You went to a wedding on a Saturday during football season?
I had to.
That's criminal.
I didn't plan it.
Did you at least have like your phone up in a non?
I had, yeah. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
Hey, also, I want it to be known the week I did not watch as much college football as I wanted. I did the best in the picks, and you're still giving me, you know what, here. Yeah. So let's relax here.
No, you did do the best.
Tough guy.
I can start with there. Jerry went 5-3. Trevor went 4-4. I went 2-6. On the season, Jerry is 26-23. Trevor's 30-31, and I'm 32-29. Which I did percentage points, and Jerry has me beat by like 0.5%.
Stop the count.
53% I think is Jerry. I'm 52.5, and I think Trevor's 49%.
Hey, so this week I went 50%, so it's better than I normally do.
Yeah, no, you're doing better. I had a terrible week. I thought I was going to be the smart guy, and of course it burned me. Which the one pick I'm happy that I lost it. Mm-hmm. I was wrong though. I mean, I'll admit that a little later on, but we have a lot to talk about here. We have some firings in college football. A Norvell was fired at a state school, but not the one that we would have thought was fired. Shohei Ohtani told me to shove it up my ass this week.
Children's program.
It's children's program, but he told me to show it up. The NFL keeps going on. The Bears are the greatest team of all time. Maybe Bears Colts Super Bowl. I'm feeling it at this point. Maybe
not again. Oh,
could happen.
Bears and Colts being in the Super Bowl.
It could happen. They don't have Peyton Manning this time, so I like our chances.
Daniel Jones.
It's crazy. It's like the best start that they've had since Peyton Manning was their quarterback. It's like crazy.
It's all right. They'll choke in the beginning of the playoffs.
Most likely, yeah. Game ain't over yet. Creepy photo here. Creepy photo. They're up by like a million points. I don't know.
They're up by 15 right now.
Yeah, 38-23.
Chargers just scored a touchdown. You never know. But all right, let's get into the MLB here. It was funny going to the Notre Dame USC game because there's a lot of California people that come in. They all had Dodgers hats and like a USC shirt. So when we were all walking out of the stadium, it was very funny. We were all like, hey, at least you guys have the Dodgers. You can buy that. You can't buy college football wins, but you can buy championships in the MLB. I think that they'd much rather probably win a national championship for USC, but I could be wrong. But the Dodgers swept the Brewers in the NLCS to go to their second straight World Series. I think it's like the fifth time they've been to a World Series in like the last 10 years or something like that. I did talk about Shohei Ohtani not being great in the playoffs, and then he goes and pitches 6 scoreless innings, 10 strikeouts, 3 home runs, and 1 home run that went out of the stadium.
Yep.
I mean, he just told me to shove it.
Yep.
And to knock out the series too. Think about that. Yep. That's a game clinching at home. Yeah, he's one of one. I think it's just that simple. And this is one of those box scores that we're going to look back at, and whenever the next big baseball thing is, we're going to be like, but did he do that? It's not just that. It's in the playoffs. It's to knock out a team that was the number 1 seed to get you to the World Series. This is Babe Ruth-like stuff. And even Babe Ruth wasn't hitting them out the stadium. So,
no, it's very true.
Caleb, I don't know what you need to do to stop the Dodgers from winning another title. I guess you need to either make fun of the Mariners or the Blue Jays at this point. I'd pick your poison here. But, yeah, that's just one of one. We won't see this again. Like, the only person we'll see it from again is Shohei Ohtani. That's it. It's just that simple.
Yeah, and I think the level of competition is obviously way different. from Babe Ruth to Shohei Ohtani. Sleepy Joe's on the mound. Here comes the windup. It's a 60-mile-per-hour fastball.
Sparky Martin, the 5'6" center fielder from.
It's the fastest pitch ever thrown in Major League Baseball history.
Yeah.
60 miles an hour. He's a plumber on Tuesday. No, okay. So yeah. Very, very, very different levels of competition. So that makes it much more impressive. But yeah, Shohei is a freak, and it's really cool that this. I know, like a lot of our lives, I feel like we grew up, and it's like Michael Jordan. It's like, oh, we didn't really get to see Michael Jordan. It's like Kirk Gibson and Barry Bonds. We kind of caught the tail end of some of their stuff, but to be able to sit here and watch people like Shohei their entire career, it's gonna be very special. It's gonna be something we're gonna be talking about for a very, very long time, regardless of what the rest of his career looks like. I think that game alone is good enough to be like, did you remember this?
Yeah, I mean, so Creepy Photo says greatest performance ever been and may ever be. We saw history, gentlemen, and he said that was perfect, Trevor. I mean, I would say, I mean, yeah, I think when you look back, I mean, to clinch the series, I think makes it even crazier, right? To go 6 scoreless to 10 strikeouts, and he was like pumping fastballs by him too. It wasn't like he was just off speed. And then just to get up there, hit the first home run, you're like, okay, like of course he can do that. The second home run, you're like, what the hell's going on? And then he does it again. I mean, it is crazy. There's no one like him. He's well worth $700 million, clearly.
If anybody is, he definitely is.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely is. I mean, you look at him, nobody else can do that. Nobody else probably will ever do that. And it's just one of those things where, yeah, I mean, we saw something that's crazy, dominant. And yeah, I agree with Jerry. Like when you like talk about other people's stuff, it's gonna be like, did he do that? Did it? Aaron Judge can hit the baseball, but it's like, well, he can't pitch 6 scoreless innings and strike out 10 batters now, can he?
Yep.
It's just crazy what he can do. And now the Dodgers are set up they have to rest till Friday, which gives everybody a chance to sit down, rest, recover. Their pitching staff was great. I think their ERA was like 0.63. And the Brewers weren't like a crazy offensive team, but the Brewers were a team that put a lot of pressure on the teams that they played and made chaos happen by getting walks, getting hits, that kind of stuff. They completely shut them down. The Dodgers are the Dodgers, and now they await for the Mariners and the Blue Jays series to finish. That is Game 6 tonight at 8 p.m. on FS1. The Mariners lead the series 3-2. They were up 2-0. Blue Jays won 2, and the Mariners won Game 5. The big dumper again, just big dumps, gets the team going. And then Suarez hits a grand slam to basically win the series for him. So, I mean, this comes down to it's going back to Toronto, and it's going to be who can score, I would say, probably 5 or more runs.
Yeah, I don't think this series is just over yet either. Like,
No,
Toronto absolutely has an opportunity here. With this game going back to Toronto, we saw they did with New York, especially when they were at home against New York earlier this year. And in the series, this has been very back and forth, which kind of sucks because you look at it like it's been a great series. I don't want to take away from the series we were watching. Awesome series itself. But then we're going to turn around and it's like, all right, cool. Play the Dodgers. We're just on one right now. Again, we were talking about a guy whose stat line you could do in a whole series, and you'd be like, that was a good series. He did it in one game. Yeah. That's what you're putting up with. And Joey, obviously the best player on LA, but they're so deep that no matter who steps up to the plate here, no pun intended, you've got a lot to put up with, and this is a team that's getting rest. But for my sake, I would love to see Seattle in this situation just because this is a franchise that is desperately waited for a moment like this. Nothing against Toronto either. They've also have a great fan base, great opportunity. But when's the last time we've talked about Seattle baseball in a meaningful way?
2001.
It was 24 years ago.
Yeah. I was 1 year old. That tells you anything. This is historic in its own sense. So the only problem is if Seattle wins, we're going to have a West Coast World Series. Oh, my God. The time those games are going to start. We can play it about, us in this podcast and group go back and forth on like the noon versus 1 p.m. NFL kickoffs. Oh, no, not the MLB playoffs.
Yeah. Midnight starts, baby.
Oh, Lord. And if we have one of those games like we did earlier with like Detroit, Seattle, that goes 15. oh no, like no,
Yeah.
that's the only thing I worry about. But this is I can see the series definitely going to 7. Toronto absolutely has this opportunity. Both these teams have fought. They're very even. They're in like one grand slam, literally is the determiner between these two. And both teams get pressure on the base paths. Both have all right kicking, pitching. Thinking wrong sport here. So I'm really curious to see who puts up against it. But just LA feels like a wagon, and they have run through these playoffs. We thought Philly was going to be a tough test. They kind of beat the brakes off Philly. Milwaukee, they swept them. Like, I don't know, Jim. This might not be good.
Well, I will say too, and I saw this on Twitter, is somebody said that the Astros may not have been the bad guys in baseball. It was actually the Dodgers after all, because the Dodgers, they interviewed Dave Roberts and he's like, let's ruin baseball. And it's like, okay, guy. It's like, okay. like I don't have a problem with them being dominant. I mean, it's like in the history of sports, we do like dynasties. We buy in, we watch, whether it was like the Patriots, the Yankees back in the 90s, the Chiefs, like we do buy into it and we do like it either way. It's like, because we want them to win or we want to see them lose. So it does help the ratings in sports when you have a team dominant like the Dodgers, but it's just interesting to see that it was a complete mismatch between them and the Brewers, without a doubt. I mean, complete opposite of the ends of the spectrum. There's a lot of people that thought the Dodgers wouldn't get to any elimination games, and it's clearly been that. They've kind of been easy. I would personally like to see the Mariners versus the Dodgers, just to see the Big Dumper and Shohei go against each other. I think that'd be very fun. But yeah, the other thing too is, so if this series were to end tonight, they're not going to move the World Series up. It's stuck on Friday. So either way, Game 6 is tonight. Game 7 will be tomorrow night. So there's going to be a few days with no baseball at all. So that's kind of going to be the other thing, is you're going to have this, and then Friday starts the World Series. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Like Jerry's point with the West Coast, will be very, very interesting to see kind of how the times start. I don't know if they'll do 8:30 or 9, because I know that there's been people complaining for like the Dodgers games. They're like, everybody's not there yet. The upper decks in the right field are not full yet. It's like, that's not my problem that you live in LA and you have to leave at 9 a.m. to get to your ballpark. Not my problem. So we'll see, but it'll be very interesting. But yeah, the Dodgers cruising right along. Mariners and Blue Jays they're in a battle, which some people would say that could help them. When you play the Dodgers, you never really, really know. All right, I talked about a Norvell getting fired in college football, and it's not who we thought it would be. That one at Florida State very well could get fired. There's talks of it possibly happening, but Jay Norvell at Colorado State's been fired after about 3.5 years. He was 18-26 at Colorado State. They started 2-5 this season. Coached at Nevada before Colorado State, and his best season at Colorado State was last year, going 8-5. So it's very interesting that his last year was his best year in the third year. They started a little bad this year, and they don't even give him any more time, and they say you're out the door.
One thing to note here: lost to Hawaii, never a great thing, because Hawaii's been perennially not good. Nothing against them, but is what it is. This is a new Pac-12 job that you're going to be hiring for now. Only a $1.5 million buyout as well. This is going to be a really interesting spot. G5 moving into the weird, I don't know where this technically kind of sits in our world, if it's, technically G6 still, but an upper tier G6, or if it's now Power 5, Group of 5. I don't know where that sits. That world will never figure itself out. But that's kind of the interesting point here. You probably remember Jay Norvell from his time against Colorado, when they had that one game where they were talking a lot of smack beforehand, and it's like, oh my God, a team is almost more annoying than Colorado right now, and it's their rival. That's not fun. And then they lost that game. But yeah, it's very interesting because after Norvell left Nevada, depending what you say, this is, regional dialect. It's program here type of difference. Both these places have struggled. Nevada hasn't done that real well since Norvell's been gone. And Colorado State's had its moments, but again, under 500, started picking up last year, have struggled this year. But, unlike the other Norvell that everyone keeps talking about, that's like a $50 million buyout, again, $1.5 million for a new Pac-12 job, which I think will get more names and people involved that are going to be kind of surprising because of that stature and the fact that they're jumping up, right? I think.
Yeah, kind of. I would
Kinda.
say it's like kind of like it feels like a lateral move, but
Somewhat. I don't know. The new
a bigger
Pac-12 will
name.
figure itself.
Yeah.
No. So that's, I think, the one thing about this job that makes it interesting to me is that we're kind of divulging what the new Pac-12 will look like. This will kind of give an idea of how people take it and look at it seriously. But outside of that, yeah, kind of a weird, but okay, sure. Why not add on to the fun?
Yeah, so Oregon State fired their coach last week, so that's another Pac-12 job. So you're kind of competing with that. We're seeing these schools fire their guys at a higher clip. It is interesting though to see the smaller schools that have kind of fired their coach. Oregon State, Colorado State with Jay Norvell, UAB, Kent State. So some of these smaller schools are trying to get a run at it to maybe position themselves for a good run. But we had another big domino fall. Some would argue, I could make the argument this job that is now open is bigger than the Penn State job. That being Florida firing Billy Napier after he's been there 3.5, 4-ish years now. He went 22-23 and 3-4 this year. They did win this week. So that is very interesting. Me and Trevor talked about it during the middle of the week. Is like, hey, the report came out that he was probably going to be fired, and we were just like, okay, so what's going to happen if he wins? Like, you're going to fire him, and then how do you do it? They have a bye before they play Georgia, so I thought he was going to be fired after the game, win or lose, anyways. But it is weird that he won to then fire him. Yeah, I mean, he just never really got his footing there. I would say he was a really wanted coach. When he was available 4 years ago, there were many big schools won him. I know LSU kind of looked into him, and then Florida ended up winning him, and it just never really worked. The DJ Lagway thing, it feels like he's kind of made him worse or really hasn't helped him develop. Florida's a tough school to coach at. It's either you can handle it or you can't. There's 2 guys in the last 30 years that have been able to do that. They've been successful, and now there's been 4 guys that have not been able to handle it very well, and it is very, very surprising that this is a job that has now been open. I want to say they're on this will be their 5th coach since Urban Meyer left in 2010.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's turned into its own little carousel, its own little world. I think the 2 damning stats to me about the Billy Napier tenure is he was 5-17 against ranked opponents, 22-23 overall in his time there, and then 0-14 away from home. So you took him out of the swamp and they weren't winning. The big thing that Napier is supposed to be is he's supposed to be a culture builder guy. So he came off of Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen can coach ball plays. We know that. You can draw up an offense. But everyone's complaint about Dan Mullen was, yeah, you can draw these things up, but you have no talent or not the talent you expect at Florida to do these things. And so when they lose these games and all this other stuff, that was the problem. You bring in Billy Napier. He was a guy who was recruiting way above his weight at Louisiana Lafayette. So you're like, okay, cool. This is going to be a guy who builds the program. He had the 4 million guys in different polos, like the culture setting coach and all these other different weird names and stuff like that. But even with some better recruiting results, they weren't that much better. Not what you were promised. And he hasn't built that thing. And you thought at the end of last year, maybe this was the year to start going forward. Obviously, the schedule we talked about in the preseason, it has come to fruition in that sense. This is one hell of a schedule to do. Mississippi State was one of the easier games on this schedule. They are not a bad team, and they almost lost to them. There's still a lot going on here. This is a $21 million buyout too. But the thing I worry about with Florida, as you kind of mentioned, Caleb, this job's been open a lot. Yeah, it's got the prestige. The swamp's a swamp. It's one of one. But at what point we keep going back to the board and to the drawing board? Can you keep really telling me it's that good of a job if everyone who goes there starts struggling? And yeah, you have your history, but now we're going into the same spot you were 4 years ago. You have a coach you don't like, who isn't winning games that you think they should win. They're not competitive against the big boys, and they're kind of just sitting in the no man's zone of the SEC. That's what you fired 4 years ago and paid a lot of money to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the hard part. But in return, it is Florida. You have that history, you have those moments. So it's a very interesting spot for me. I wish they would have waited a little bit later. I get it. This is the bye week, all this other stuff. But it's like, this is one of those jobs that shouldn't have to, in my mind, open up earlier to try to, reset the candidate pool. If you think you know what you're going to get, you know what you're going to get. I know earlier we kind of teased about Lane Kiffin maybe taking this job, this opportunity. I'm not sure how much of a guarantee that is out the immediate, but it's obviously the thought. But it's like right now, one program in the last 3 years in the SEC has done considerably better and has everything else kind of in place. This was the same school that their first NIL deal, or one big one, led to the quarterback leaving, right? And Jalen Rashada having all that mess and all this stuff. So there's some stuff to clean up here. This is not as clean of an athletic department in terms of like things going on. Strickland's still the AD. Hired a national championship winning basketball coach, but do you really let him hire another football coach? There's no president there. Michigan's president tried to come here. So there's a lot of these things that aren't on the field problems that will also set into this coaching search. And I think will hurt it more than even like a Penn State where you're like, wow, I can't believe you paid $50 million to get rid of a guy. Sure, but everybody else is aligned. There's a lot of weird problems here in the swamp. So whoever comes in there is going to know that, and it's not going to be cheap to get that next person with that in mind.
James Franklin to Florida.
You like James Franklin to Florida?
No, it's probably going to be someone weird and that we don't really know about. But I do kind of agree with you, Jerry, that the idea that the Florida job has kind of like lost its shine as years have gone. Where I mean, like in 2010 when with Ermeyer, when he left, that it was kind of like pretty illustrious job and something that a lot of people probably wanted, and they were a big contender in the SEC. But now it's like you said, you're kind of just stuck in this no man's land where you have to play Alabama, Georgia, LSU, like all these teams. It's cool. It's fun to think about like what his future looks like and future prospects for this job. James Franklin is probably not one of them, but I don't know. Fun to think about. Maybe something we bring up on a later show or whatever. But
yeah. So I honestly, James Franklin, I don't think is actually not a bad idea for Florida. He coached in SC before in Vanderbilt. He can bring you some consistency, which this job has not had since 2010, and that's been 15 years, right? They had Will Muschamp, didn't really go very well. He was the hot coordinator at the time. He was supposed to be the coach in waiting in Texas, and then he gets offered the Florida job and kind of jumps ship. Jim McElwain, I think, went to the SEC title game, I want to say in his first year maybe. First or second year, very early on, and then it kind of crumbled. They hired Dan Mullen, who was an ex-assistant of Urban Meyer at Florida during the Tebow years. He was at Mississippi State, did a very good job at Mississippi State. Dan Mullen there started 10-3, 11-2. They went to the SEC championship game that year. That was with Kyle Trask. They ended up winning the Orange Bowl. They go 8-4 the next year. 2020, the next year when they went 8-4 was when they went to the SEC championship again. They lost in the Cotton Bowl. Then the next year he starts 5-6 and they fire him. But he was 34-15 overall there. Mm-hmm. And mind you, Dan Mullen now at UNLV is 6-1 there. So it's kind of like you fired Dan Mullen to hire this guy, and now you are in, I would say, a worse spot because, the shine is now worn off the job even more. And now you have a quarterback who's a talented quarterback, but is he going to stay with you there now? And, it's just they're in a weird spot. Florida, the job kind of reminds me of Texas before they got Sark, where it's just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
It's kind of all over the place. They kind of went through a rotation themselves. So, I don't know where they go. Clearly, they're going to try and take a big swing. I think Lane's the big swing that they're going to try and take. After that, I don't really know. The problem is I kind of expect there to be a lot of big jobs open. And that's going to really – they're all going to fight each other. I don't know what some of these coaches are going to want to do. The names that they want to do I don't think are going to leave the schools they're currently at. But you never know. You throw enough money. So that's going to be the biggest thing is you've already spent $20 million on a buyout. That's just him. I don't know what a staff buyout's going to be. You got to do that as well probably at the end of the year. Then you're going to have to go and pay a new guy. If you want a big-time guy, you got to give him – Cignetti just got 11.8, so now it's like is the market now 12? And so then you have to do there. Then you got to put money in for a roster, and the whole thing is crazy. I don't know. They're getting ahead of it because I think Florida State's going to fire Mike Norvell. That is kind of the talk today that they've been talking. That's $100 million buyout with his contract plus his staff, which is wild.
Yeah.
But Florida State's done it before in the past, spending the money to get rid of their coach. Creepy Photo says, when is BK fired? I
The
that
Burger
one
King.
is when is Burger King fired? No, he's talking about Brian Kelly. But I mean, same difference. He's
No,
a
I
charge.
did just see like an LSU fan, like Twitter or Facebook or something. Like it's kind of funny that the James Franklin thing happened because now everyone, as soon as their team like messes up, they're like buy out, buy out, buy out. Like that's like the hot buzzword now. That
Yeah.
yeah, I saw that though yesterday after they lost.
And he's very similar to James Franklin. Think about it. Like he wins the
Yeah,
games that he should and doesn't win the biggest games when it needs to be done. So I don't know if it's as much of a Brian Kelly gets fired or Brian Kelly leaves.
he goes to Florida.
No, Penn State I think would be the job he'd want to go to.
Oh,
Get him back to the North. It
yeah.
fits more of his style of a coach. I don't know if Penn State would hire him because you basically just had Brian Kelly and James Franklin, but it would be very interesting for him to maybe get an out. He doesn't fit at LSU. I think that's been the thing since he was hired there. So I don't know what would happen there. But it's just crazy to think that he's 4 years in and he left Notre Dame 4 years ago. Mark Freeman took over Notre Dame 4 years ago. And Mark Freeman's been able to make the playoff and get to a national title. And in the same time, Brian Kelly had, I would say, better quarterback than Notre Dame has had in Jaden Daniels. He had him for 2 years at LSU, won a Heisman, and wasn't able to do anything with him. And you have Garrett Nussmeier coming in the year, but he's like hyped about, and they don't look great. And he's losing to a former assistant, Clark Lee, at Vanderbilt. So it's a very funky time. Like I said, this whole thing is going to be this coaching carousel is going to be nuts. It wasn't crazy last year. It's going to get really, really wild this year, and it already has. Creepy Photo says he is a burger, him and Paul.
Come on, Paul. No, man. I think the hardest part about especially the two big jobs that have opened up in both Florida and Penn State is you fired guys who were builders. Like Billy Napier is supposed to be your builder. He built Louisiana Lafayette into that really good Sun Belt program. They're the best in the Sun Belt team that was pretty solid for where they were in that grandstanding. That's why he got the looks at LSU. LSU thinks they're too big to hire a G5 guy like that. So that next time that happens, call me. But now both Florida and Penn State are really looking for very similar things. They're looking for guys who win big games. The problem is the one guy who probably is the immediate was Curt Cignetti, right? Like who came in and he's won at Oregon now, right? He wins the games he's supposed to. The games he's lost, they were major underdogs for the most part, or now this year they're taken care of. Like the fact we're going to talk about number 1 and number 2, right? We'll probably meet up in a couple of weeks. Like that's where you need a guy who does that type of stuff, but you're going to have to hire builders. And can you give those guys time? Because, with Penn State, you gave James Franklin all the time in the world. You need someone who's going to win the big game, maybe lose the smaller game, almost Freeman-esque. Like I know that's a name that
Let's calm down.
Up, and I don't think Marcus Freeman goes there, right? But that's the guy you're looking for. Marcus Freeman's a guy who's won some big games, got Notre Dame to a national title. Those guys are hard to find, especially in these high-profile jobs, right? And like if you take an Eli Drinkwitz for Florida, for example, wouldn't be a terrible fit. James Franklin for Florida. They need time to build.
Yeah.
But will you give them that time? That's become the question now. And I think in this coaching carousel is that a lot of the jobs that are firing guys that they gave time to build, but did not win the things they wanted them to win. So will you then go back to the wagon and go, all right, we'll get another guy who says they're going to build the program, take their time, stuff like that. Who's out there to do that that's not in such a different spot, or is in a similar world as you that doesn't want to leave? So it's going to get real weird because I don't know where these teams really go. Like, I don't know. But Florida, it's still a really good job, but I don't think it's the same job it was even 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's kind of should be the concern as this coaching carousel continues because it'll still be it's a top 2 job right now. It'll probably stay within the top 5 no matter what. But especially if more big schools are thinking of getting in here, where do you go? But it's part of the fun of this, isn't it? We get to do stuff like this and, it gets us views and we get to talk about how the Florida head coach could be, pick whoever. That's great. Got to have some fun here.
Exactly. And I would like what you just said, Jerry, like how this job wasn't what it was. How this job now isn't what it was 4 years ago. I would argue like even like the SEC really isn't what now isn't what it was 4 years ago, where we have so many good teams and so many contenders. Where Florida kind of gets shoved into the middle of this pack, similar to like an Auburn almost, to where it's like, yeah, they're going to play you tough, but and I think maybe the Florida, higher ups are expecting, winning, uh, being ranked, things like that. But I mean, as we have more and more instability at Florida, it gets harder to gain that footing and progress through the SEC, which has, I mean, 4 years ago was the best conference in football probably. Now it's even more so, even more so competitive, and the Big Ten's very good too, but it's a very competitive SEC, especially at the top. So
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely changed. That's the thing is some of these schools and some of these fans need to realize, like, I'd say Wisconsin's a prime example. In the old way the Big Ten was set up, you were a 10-2, 9-3 team guaranteed every year. Now in the new Big Ten, you're 7-5, 8-4.
yeah,
And you're struggling to become bowl eligible. Florida's the exact same thing, where like historically, like you're 9-3, 10-2. You had tough games against Tennessee, Georgia. You could probably win all the other games, maybe a South Carolina, throw that in there. And now in the new SEC, you are like 6-6, 7-5, 8-4. You're battling every day. It's the same thing in the Big Ten with like Penn State. Is like historically you're 9-3, 10-2 team. Now in the new Big Ten, like it's completely changed it. I think that the one thing that's ruined Kurt Cignetti's ruined this for a lot of guys.
Yeah.
He's come into Indiana in 2 years and they look great. He makes the playoff in the first year, losing to Ohio State and Notre Dame, where you're like, okay, they should lose those games. This year they come in, you're like, okay, they're going to play Oregon. They end up beating Oregon, and now it's like they're probably have a high percentage chance of going undefeated, going to battle Ohio State, number 1 versus number 2 Big Ten championship game. They're going to make the playoffs regardless. So it's like he's ruined it for a lot of people. But I will say the one name, and it's going to be tough to get him to leave the school because it's his alma mater, but he has built the program, and it's taken him like I think 5 years since he left Notre Dame. But Clark Lee, I think, is the guy that if I'm any of these schools, that's who I look at, because Vanderbilt historically is awful.
Yeah.
And I mean awful. And I don't know if Penn State wants to go back down the Vanderbilt thing, but if I'm Florida, I call Clark Lee because he can clearly build a program. He's done it very smartly at Vanderbilt, and he's the guy that's willing to change. Before he got Diego Pavia and, basically the whole New Mexico State offense, he, was a defensive guy. It's like, we're going to be physical. He goes out and they played New Mexico State, and he goes, we have to hire their coordinator, and we have to get that quarterback. And it's completely changed. And now you view them as they're scoring 30, 40 points a game, and they play good defense. So I think that's going to be a name.
In the SEC.
In the SEC, yes, very well. At Vanderbilt, think about that. So I think that he's a guy that if I'm Florida, that's why I have top of my radar. But it'll be very interesting because, you get no time anymore to build. You can be great or you're not. Not everybody's Kurt Cignetti, and kind of the way it's worked in Indiana, but hey, these schools and these boosters want to win so bad, and you're spending so much money now that it's like we have to win, and we have to see results with our money. But hey, I mean, it's only getting started with the coaching carousel. Moving on now to upsets of the week. We had some big ones. Louisville goes down to Miami and defeats number 2 Miami 24-21 on a nasty Friday night game. Those Friday nights in the ACC
are nasty.
Carson Beck 4 interceptions. This was one of the games we picked, and we were kind of like, Miami's gonna win.
We kind of drew the parallel. We talked about this, but we drew the parallel to the Florida State Virginia kind of trap game. Yeah. Where it's like a Friday night game, a team that's rolling pretty well right now, and then running into a team, that is probably underrated. And that Louisville team is a good team. They show that against Miami. But again, this kind of goes back to my argument as to why Miami shouldn't have been number 1, because I still feel like it's Ohio State's to lose. And if we kind of, jumped Miami above Ohio State, this happens, and it's like, what did we even do this for? So, I still think it's Ohio State's to lose, even with Indiana. It has to be the Indiana-Ohio State game that changes who is number 1. But yeah, Carson Beck did not look very good. It was a rough time. I don't think it was all his fault. I know for his fourth interception, there was talks about maybe a miscommunication on the route. That would have been the receiver's fault. But yeah, Louisville looked great in football. I mean, like a week ago, I was like, there's like three good teams: Indiana, Miami, Ohio State, and then here we are.
Yeah.
Now there's two good teams.
Well, the worst part about this one is like the things that have made Miami a really hard team to beat. Basically, the defensive and offensive line were still really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you turn the ball over 4 times, it helps a lot of teams win games. Jeff Brom is a fantastic coach. Again, I look back and now this trade looks better and better. The Cincinnati-Louisville trade of Satterfield and Jeff Brom has somehow started to really work out for both programs, especially Louisville, where Jeff Brom's come home. This is another big one. He did this at home against Notre Dame last year. Was it last year? 2 years ago now?
2 years ago.
Like this is the type of team that can do these things. And what I find fascinating is we kind of go through the weird parts of the ACC. Who would have thought when we started this season that the 3-point win in overtime for Virginia against Louisville could be an ACC title decider in terms of who's probably still playing Miami? I'm not necessarily thinking this is all over, but this is the most Miami thing ever. This is the thing under Cristobal they've done for the last 2-3 years is they have some really good teams. Like, again, you had the number 1 overall pick last year, as your quarterback, and he diced teams up, and then you lose a weird one. You lose to a Syracuse. And I get Syracuse is good, but say they were Louisville. Louisville's a good team. But if you're going to be in that top echelon, which I thought they were, they've given us every reason, at least in my mind, to do so. But then you got caught in that Friday trap game. And this is a lot of coach speak. This is a lot of, the TV world. Oh, keep an eye on this game. And this is exactly why. This game will feed into more weird Friday night games where you're like, just keep an eye on it. Who knows? Yeah. And then, the 1 or 2 times, like it has this year that happens, you look smart. But, you're checking your priors a little bit in Miami. I don't think it's that end of the world, partially because, again, I've been on that Louisville bandwagon now for a little while. But you can't drop another one now. You can't, now with the schedule that Miami has, you got to kind of pick things up. You cannot let this tumble or else it gets really awkward really fast.
Yeah, I don't think this is like a Penn State level collapse for Miami or even a Florida State level collapse. But I think you brought up a good point. They have to make sure that they went out because if not, their playoff odds look really weird.
So I just looked. Georgia Tech does not play a Friday night game, so they are not going to get sniped by that. But currently, right now, Georgia Tech is undefeated and top dogs in the ACC. Moving out to the Big 12, which is just got even wilder after this game. Arizona State knocks off number 7 Texas Tech 26-22. And now the Big 12 is like, what the hell is going on?
I don't know. I can't guess a Big 12 game comfortably. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. I just don't know. Like, Texas Tech looked like an unbelievable team for
$1 million.
Yeah, and they've spent a lot of money on their team. They've looked really good. We talk about every week after we talk about Texas Tech how much that money is paid off. This is like the 1 week where I haven't rode with Arizona State. It's just so weird. Big 12 is weird. I don't know anything.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Texas Tech without their starting QB here?
Yeah, so they have their backup, who has actually played very well. Mm-hmm. But yes, he's a backup, and I want to say Sam Levitt was back for Arizona State.
Levitt was back in this game. Yes. And this is the thing. I think what is so weird is you pull this post, pre Sam Levitt world where you had whatever his name is that goes to 4 million schools. That I'm blanking on. The week before, and Utah just absolutely stomps on him.
Oh, it's Jeff Sims?
Yeah, Jeff Sims. It's like, okay, so you're in this world. It's like, it is a lot of chaos, but just how crazy week to week can be, and how much a star player can matter. This was a game that was on a lot of people's calendars in the first place for the Big 12 because of how weird and funky it gets. It just adds to it. But, again, it's with both these situations, both Louisville and Texas Tech, I'm like, I don't sit here and I'm like, oh my God, it's all over. But both these conferences have that right amount of chaos. And the only team I thought that was really not going to get stuck in it and is now in it is that Miami squad. Texas Tech still has their flaws. Again, they didn't spend big on like the quarterbacks or the wide receivers. They went more like edge rushers and stuff like that. Well, again, if a team scores more than 25 points on you, it's great that you had the rush.
Yeah.
But, it's just one of those weird things. And literally the next game we're talking about just adds on to that same amount of chaos, which is BYU 24, Utah 21.
Yeah, and now BYU is still undefeated, and now they are on top of the Big 12, which I don't know if it's great to be on top of the Big 12 of the ACC, honestly. I think you want to be like third right now.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's honestly where it is. Creepy Photo says great games this weekend, Friday Night Madness. Yeah, I mean, the BYU-Utah one was like, coming in this, you thought Utah was back to being Utah that we know and love, and it's like running the ball, whatever. And then you get, Trevor's guy, Bear Backmeyer, and this kid's just rumbling, bumbling, stumbling around. Like, mind you, he's a freshman. He wears number 47, and he just – I like BYU's coach a lot too. He is a very good coach. He's built a very good program. I would not be shocked if a UCLA Bruins team tries to get him.
And then one thing to think about BYU specifically is, remember, coming into the season, the question mark became quarterback.
Yeah.
Because of Retzlaff being kicked off for whatever weird BYU rule that he broke. We don't know. I don't really want to know.
Drinking soda with caffeine in it.
I don't know. I don't want to know. I just feel like it will make everything weirder.
You just didn't fit there.
There you go.
Ideologically, religiously, you just did not fit there.
He survived for a year beforehand. I don't know what whatever.
No, what did you call this game last week?
It's the Holy War.
It's the Holy War.
No, you called it a different name.
I called it the Soaking Bowl.
Yes.
Oh, brother.
Children's program.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. But, for Bear Bachmeyer to step up slowly, and he's still got some training wheels on him. He's still got some work to do here. But, again, the big question mark with BYU is, like, you have all these other pieces that are around here, but you're losing the star quarterback. And early in the season, when they were kind of just still scrummaging out wins against lesser teams, you're like, okay, but when they play a big boy, I don't know if Bear's going to have it. He did just enough. It's not pretty. It's not fun. But goddamn, they just keep winning. They're going to be annoying. This is one of those teams I feel pretty confident is going to lose one game somewhere, but they're going to make it interesting. And again, to come into a rivalry matchup, granted they were at home, and to take down a good Utah team, I don't know how on the Utah scale we are here. It's kind of like a 6 or 7.
Not at all. I'm off it.
You're off it. Well, I think they're like a 6 or 7 on the Utah scale. Of 1 being like last year and like 10 being 2-3 years ago when they were like winning the Big 12 or really close to it. We're kind of like 6-7 there. No pun intended.
13.
So it's very interesting with BYU because it's a team that feels like it's going to fall, but they just keep eking out wins. They're never clean. They're never fun, but they win. And winning is a hard thing to do.
Yeah. So BYU has to play Iowa State this week. At Iowa State, bye week. Then they play Texas Tech at Texas Tech. Then they have to play TCU, who's 5-2, and then they have to play Cincinnati, 6-1, and then UCF to end the season. So, yeah, it's not like I said. You don't want to be in first place in the ACC and the Big 12. It's just not a thing you want to do. But it is interesting to see that they have the 7 wins. Does getting ahead early kind of help you in the Big 12 maybe? It's like, hey, you can maybe lose a game or two and it doesn't come back to bite you in the end. Who knows? Some other games before we go to the 3 games that we're going to dive into a little bit more deeper. Michigan controlled Washington 24-7. That game really surprised me. Michigan actually played very well coming off that loss against USC. Washington, the 2 biggest games they played so far, Ohio State and Michigan, they've not looked good at all. Jed Fish is an offensive guy. You think he's going to do good, and they don't score any points in the 2 big games. So very interesting. Indiana now moves up to number 2 after a 38-13 win over Michigan State. It was very interesting to be like, okay, give Cignetti this contract. State came out tough, and then Indiana just kind of rolled. A&M outlasted Arkansas 45-42. Arkansas and pesky Razorbacks.
Ivy Trino wants a job, dog. That's all this is. That man's calling the craziest games ever. That's why they're scoring 40 points, but also giving up 45. This is welcome to the ride. Just be careful if you're on the motorcycle.
Yeah, don't fall off. Vandy beat LSU 31-24. I think LSU going in there had like 10 straight wins against Vandy Vandy. That was broken. Vandy looks very, very good. Georgia Tech still unbeaten after a 27-18 win over Duke. And then Jerry's Mizzou Tigers survived against Auburn 23-17 in double overtime. Jerry, how'd that make you feel watching that game?
Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. Jordan Hare is a problem. Jordan Hare is cursed. I don't say that. Nick Saban does. So if that feels like law at this point. Yeah. The funny joke on the back end of this was like I was keeping an eye on Hugh Freeze's job status because Missouri has a tendency of beating teams and then they fire their coach. Case in point, Dan Mullen was a prime example of that.
I remember that game.
Yeah, me too. It was a great time. But so I was like, oh, this might be it for Hugh Freeze because that's usually kind of the running joke. Ugly game, but a win's a win. The funny thing about that, and we can also talk about LSU Vandy real quick to add this in 2019, if you had told me or anybody here, except Creepy Photo Noah Mark, he knows all, right? That Vanderbilt, Missouri will be College game day in Nashville with real playoff implications. Everyone would have thought you were drunk. Think about that. You have number 10 Vanderbilt playing number 15 Missouri in a game that has true playoff potential. The winner of that game has an inside track to some degree. What?
It is crazy, even though ESPN and College Game Day have the SEC's appendix in their mouth and they refuse to get it out. But no, it is wild that Missouri Vanderbilt, which historically are powers in the SEC in other sports other than football, are kind of dominating right now and playing very, very well.
Did you bring up Minnesota and Nebraska?
No, so I didn't talk about that, but yes, Minnesota did beat Nebraska. Nebraska is probably the most fraudulent team, I'd say, in the country. Matt Rule says it's a destination job. He better hope he doesn't get fired from the destination job.
He won't, but this is supposed to be year 3 Matt Rule. Again, we talk about the coaching search, too, because that's one of these games where you get talked about a lot in the coaching carousel. Oh, Matt Rule, he's the state native, all this stuff. Like, he's got it right there. And then, boom, they come out and throw out a turd. They look terrible. PJ Fleck, he's a fun coach. He's weird. He's perfect for Minnesota just to exist. But, that's part of the fun of this is as we also get into the carousel and these things go on, like a name like Clark Lee or Drinkwitz, are going to be talked about. Pick your poison here. It's the teams that are winning. And you have to think, does that actually fit here? Or also, do these guys want to leave these spots with what they have right now in comparison to what they could be going to? So, just like that, Nebraska has fallen in 2 big moments, one in the home game and now this one. I think they were away, right? If I remember correctly. They were at
Nebraska was at home.
Were they at home again? So they've fallen.
No, they were away. It was at Minnesota.
I'm going to say this one I thought was in Minnesota. No touchdown.
They only scored 6 points.
Yeah, did not score a touchdown in that game. Which is also, I think, another big indictment because one of the things a lot of people in the world of Penn State have kind of said in quiet is like, hey, they can bring whoever Snipe can bring a quarterback. They can bring a Raiola.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's not the greatest edition tape if you're really trying to do that. But, it's part of the fun of the sport, man. Every week there's something new, something weird. Again, a top 15 matchups happening in Nashville. Tennessee, the university, is not involved. That's fun. That's the fun part. Indiana is number 2 in the country. That's awesome. There's some really cool things going on here. And it's a really consequential week coming up for a lot of different teams. And that's the fun part.
It's wild. Jerry, are you going to Nashville?
I will not be going to Nashville.
Mm-hmm. You don't want to go.
I don't have a grand blow to try to stay in Nashville and listen to a bunch of people sing the same 5 songs.
I've never been to Nashville. I've driven through it many times. I feel like it's not my city. I just don't feel like I'd fit in down there.
I don't have any comments about Nashville right now.
I'm just saying, I don't think I just personally, I don't think I'd fit in down there. I'm not a big country music fan, so I don't think it would be fun for me. Trevor, I feel like Nashville is.
I think I would thrive in Nashville.
Yeah. Trevor would be the guy that just starts playing a guitar in the middle of a bar.
Yeah.
Well, I have some bad news for you. Everybody in every bar does that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But Trevor, I think he'd be the guy that sticks down there for.
I would be perfect. Yeah, alcohol and music.
Yeah, but the alcohol's expensive. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's true. Well, alcohol is expensive everywhere.
I mean,
just get to the 3 games we're doing. I don't want to talk about Nashville anymore.
you ever been to Nashville, Jerry?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I've never
I
heard
didn't
good
know.
things.
Wow.
I don't think I'd fit there. That's just me personally. All right, now we go between the hedges. Georgia comes back on Ole Miss 43. Comes back on Ole Miss. I just realized what I wrote there. Comes back on Ole Miss 43-35. The tight end in the picture here had 3 touchdowns, a hat trick on the day, but this game was the Gunner Stockton game. 4 passing touchdowns, 1 on the ground, over 300 total yards. All you hear about Georgia coming into the year was like, oh, they could be good, but what about the quarterback? Gunner Stockton has made some big moments and big times for them. Tennessee game, this game, I still blame Kirby for the Alabama game, so I don't blame that on him as a quarterback, but he's been able to do it again. And it goes into, we talk about coaches not being able to win big games. Lane Kiffin, yet again, not being able to win another big game.
You know, this game feels like recently, and this is more of actually a compliment to Lane Kiffin, is that whoever is at home in this game wins this game. That's kind of been the thing the last 3 years. 2 years ago, Georgia absolutely dominated when they were back in Sanford, back between the hedges. Then last year, we went to Vaughn Hemingway, everyone tailgate in the Grove, and then boom, Ole Miss came out on top on this. And this was a really weird game when you're checking your SEC priors. Kirby Smart's team just dropped 43 points on somebody. I never thought I'd be saying that. And so shout out Gunner Stockton, shout out this offense. Mike Bobo is actually liked. I texted this in a different group chat. The Mike Bobo versus what was it like? Who's the defensive coordinator for Ole Miss right now? It's like Pete Lanning or whatever. Pete Golden.
Pete Golden, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that's the most SEC coordinator matchup I've ever heard in my life. Like, it doesn't get much more. It just means more than that. But the fact this was a shootout, that's crazy. But it does say, I think, a lot in a weird way to Ole Miss, the fact that you're sitting in the spot. Because this is a perennial mid-tier program that is now sitting in a top 10 spot, and they had their opportunities to win. I think both quarterbacks shined, but it's just weird to me that Georgia's defense is not Georgia's defense. For the first year in a while, it's really like you got to keep an eye on that. But in return now, they're like, let's have a great offense. This weirdly feels like Saban realizing that offense is important when he hired like Lane Kiffin without having Lane Kiffin. It's like Mike Bobo. Mike Bobo is not doing the Lane Kiffin trajectory. I promise you that. So a very weird game, but it's almost a credit to Ole Miss to be right here in this situation. And it's going to be the thing that even in this type of moment, it's like, oh, Lane didn't win the big one. You were within 7 points with a perennial mid-tier SEC program of beating Georgia within their home stadium. So sell that how you want. Maybe I'm trying to get Lane Kiffin to go to Florida. Who knows? I'm not his agent, I promise. But, you could take this a certain amount of ways. But for Georgia, it keeps you in where you need to be, especially because that Bama loss is going to sting. That becomes a better and better loss each week. But it was bound to happen, but this is a weekly thing now, it feels like. Take the big game, and you're going to be like, oh, well, cool. Both teams played really well, but one team just kind of figured it out. This did not feel like, oh, one team's that much better than the other. One just kind of got the last chance. And those games are fun, but, God, it's so hard to take away much more from them than that.
Yeah, I agree. I needed – never mind. I'm not going to get into the gambling stuff. But yeah, this was a great game. It was a very entertaining game. I do agree with you, Jerry, that it just kind of went to the last team that had a chance at winning the game, and it just happened to be Georgia. These are two really good teams. This was a close game, so maybe this is something we see a similar matchup in the college football playoff if they get in there. But yeah, it was an entertaining game. It just means more. Lane Kiffin of Florida. Go Dogs.
Yeah, so Ole Miss plays Oklahoma next at Oklahoma, and Georgia's bye, then Florida. So Ole Miss has got another tough one this week. That'll be a very fun defensive versus offensive matchup. Let's see what Trinidad can do this next week. Moving on to the Alabama Crimson Tide. They beat Tennessee, which I don't think is a surprising headline anymore. They beat Tennessee every year.
It's not?
No, I mean I feel like Tennessee maybe beats them once every like 15 years.
I picked Tennessee to win this game.
You did. That was your worst pick that you've ever.
Well, so listen, I was trying to build. Remember the Illuminati trifecta?
Oh God.
Of the Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee trifecta. It just it didn't work out, but that's okay.
You're like the guy that cares about that MacGuffin or whatever they call that in college.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah, like that's exactly like that's what it feels like. You're that
And like
guy.
James Bond.
No, there's a thing called the MacGuffin in college football, and it's like I don't even know how it started, but it's a weird thing, and like one team holds it, and then if that team gets beat, then that team that beat them holds it, and it like goes around. And
I am interested in this MacGuffin.
Look it up. I feel like this is completely up your alley.
Yeah.
I'm sure Alabama held it for a very, very long time with Nick Saban. But yeah, it's a very goofy, weird thing that people are in love with.
I think I love it.
Yeah, it sounds like something you'd go nuts for. That's what when you talked about the trifecta, I was like, he's a MacGuffin guy, without a doubt. Okay,
MacGuffin
Jason,
got me.
put your hand down. Ty Simpson continues to look good. The best thing that happened to Alabama was losing to Florida State. The worst thing that happened for Florida State was to beat Alabama.
Yep.
I will say the pick six by Xavier Brown before the half really changed this game, which has been the case for Alabama in these games, is kind of one major moment, kind of shifting it in their momentum, and the team that they're playing cannot bounce back. But Alabama is still Alabama, and Kalen DeBoer just continues to shut everybody up. Shuts that lady up that wanted to win the lottery and fire him.
I mean, imagine we had Alabama up in this coaching carousel too, with that in mind. Oh yeah,
Wild.
Now this is. It feels like we're in two different tiers of programs within even the SEC right here. Like Alabama has just been on a heater. Like they're a tough team to beat. Ty Simpson continues to look like a Heisman candidate. No gambling advice, man. But if you would have gotten him earlier, when he started to get warm, like each team they beat, and again, mind you, these are ranked wins that they're collecting too, like Infinity Stones. They're a tough team to beat, and I didn't think Tennessee's not 17 points worse, but I think it also speaks to just how hot Bama's been week in, week out. And they're taking over the fact that there might be chaos everywhere else. But at least in the SEC right now, we're kind of getting back to that world in the immediate that it's like, okay, you know what to expect. And you can't let it go down from here, though. I think that's the hardest part about the Alabama job is that this is the expectation. You're supposed to beat Tennessee on the third Saturday in October every year. You're supposed to take care of a team like Missouri or Vanderbilt. Like when we talk in a couple of weeks about LSU at some degree or a Vanderbilt, that game's going to get brought up a lot because LSU's not supposed to lose to Vanderbilt. You know who didn't lose to Vanderbilt? Alabama. Yeah, they lost to them last year, and that's it was a big kerfuffle. This year, they came in and took care of business because that's what you're supposed to do. And it's making, I think, a lot of things interesting. But, yeah, this band team's tough. And they're doing everything right. And I am very, very high on Ty Simpson. It also makes me look smart because I picked them to win a national championship, and I feel smart about that every day. Will it work out? Probably not because I don't really get a lot of nice things. So we'll take that for what we will. But it makes me look smart for now.
You do look smart.
So Bama plays South Carolina next, and Tennessee plays Kentucky next. Which will be very interesting. And then Tennessee then has to play Oklahoma, New Mexico State, Florida, and then Vanderbilt. So very interesting for Tennessee to finish out the year, while Alabama, South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, Eastern Illinois, and Auburn. So, there's still some games that are going to be wacky and wild, but Trevor's trifecta did not work as he's probably knees deep in the MacGuffin right
I'm in the MacGuffin. I have the MacGuffin.
We had Kerfuckle and MacGuffin.
I am the MacGuffin.
I mean, this just who would have thought? All right, moving on to the game that I was at. The game that I was wrong about. I will admit that I was very wrong. As a Notre Dame fan, I just, set my expectations low sometimes. One play changed this game and put it in Notre Dame's favor. And if that wouldn't have happened, I don't know what would have happened. But they looked very, very good. They ran all over USC. Notre Dame did. Jeremiah Love did as well. I will say USC turned out to look very weak at the end of the game. I don't know if you could see it on TV, but as soon as the game was over, they all ran to the locker room. None of them like wanted to shake hands with Notre Dame.
Rivalry.
But it was like it reminded me of like the Bad Boy Pistons when they lost to like Michael Jordan, when they all just like went to the locker room. They all just ran, and then all the Notre Dame players chased them to the locker room. It was like confront me, basically. And then Jeremiah Love was like humping the end zone at the end
I
of the
did
game.
see that. And now the end zone's pregnant.
Which, yeah, why wouldn't it? He ran for 228 yards, 1 touchdown, Heisman Trophy. Here we come. It's starting. Yeah, I mean, it's picking up steam. Notre Dame, as a team, rushed for 306 yards total. They forced 3 turnovers. Jadarian Price's return touchdown, which happened coming towards me. One of the crazy. I've never jumped higher in my life. I think my vertical probably was 40 inches at that point. It was fun to watch that play because we were on Notre Dame's sideline, and when that hole opened up, you could see it happen in real time. And I'm like, if he could just get that crease, he's gone. And he got the crease, and he was gone. So they played good. The refs were terrible, which has been for every Notre Dame game I've watched so far. 8 penalties for Notre Dame for 96 yards, 1 penalty for USC and 5 yards. Make that make sense? I can't. They were awful. They got booed again. Great environment, fun game, even in the rain. It was weird. Like, it didn't look like it was raining that hard, or didn't feel like it was raining that hard. But then when they'd show, like, a replay on the Jumbotron, you're like, it's pouring down rain, and I'm standing out here right now. But it was fun. CJ Carr didn't look great, but he didn't need to. And, we beat Southern Cal, which that could have been the last time we ever played them.
I think that's the sad, back end part about this game is the fact that there is this ongoing back and forth on what the future of this game looks like. And that really disappoints me because this is a great rivalry. It speaks to so many different levels. Obviously, it has great history, great tradition on top of it. Great trophy. It has everything you want. But the fact that there's that honest and fair concern that this doesn't exist past this year sucks. There's been so many great moments here. There's another great chapter of this. And I feel like every couple of years you get a moment from this game or a part of one of those games where you just go like, oh yeah, that was a really big deal. That was huge. Like the Caleb Williams Heisman, repeat year was screwed over by Notre Dame game.
Yeah, I was there at that game. I don't remember the first half, but I watched that game, dude.
I remember you not remembering that first half. I wonder
he got creamed. I don't think I told Jerry I love him more than that day in my life.
Yeah,
I had a few high noons in you, did you?
There was a lot happened that day.
It was a high evening at that point.
It was that game was nuts. Jadarian Price ran a kick return back in that game as well.
Yeah, but you have those moments every couple of years, and there's so much history here that this backdrop, knowing that there's an uncertain future about it, really sucks. But this is the world we live in college football, which is, I think, it is annoying because this year we brought some great rivalries back. I think of the border war, right? Those are fun. That's what you do this for. And there's so much history here at stake that I hope that this was not the final out because there's so much more to give. And even the fact that this game gets played at a certain time of year because of depending where they play, that's awesome. It's annoying to some degree, but it's also awesome. That Southern Cal is we won't go out. If I remember right, they come early in the year because they don't want to play in the cold, and then Notre Dame will go later in the year to SC because it's California. That's awesome. It's stupid, but it's awesome. That's the most college football thing ever. Notre Dame needs to win more. It needs to keep winning, and it needs style points. So this being a 10-point win, not like a 3-point win, matters. All those things matter for this point because they have an en route to the playoff. But if you lose one more, it's all the way done. There is no return here because the second half of the schedule, good teams, but nobody that's going to vaunt you all the way up. But someone that will definitely tank you if you lose. So Notre Dame they're getting better. They look better, but you need to keep winning, and you need to keep winning convincingly.
Yeah, and Notre Dame wins the proxy war against Michigan.
Yeah. I mean, so walking out, I told my dad, I said, we got him back for you. Don't worry.
Mic drop.
So Jerry, I will say with this rivalry, so Dan Patrick was in town Thursday and Friday to go live. I was there Friday for the show. They had Pete Pavakwan, the athletic director of Notre Dame. And basically what he said was it's not that they don't want to play. Both these schools want to play each other, but it's a time frame in when they want to play. I'm thinking that if they are going to play, It's going to be between weeks 0 and weeks 4, and the back and forth of when it's played will be out of the window because USC now after last night is 0-11 in games in the elements against Notre Dame, and it's October. It was hot last night. Like, I had shorts on the entire day. It wasn't that it was cold; it was just nasty, which that could happen in California. It rarely happens, but it could happen. So I think that's going to be the issue. Is it's going to have to be played earlier in the year. Notre Dame doesn't want that. USC does. Because their argument with the Big Ten or whatever. So that's what's going to be interesting. But yeah, the elements definitely played a factor. But like I said, it wasn't that it was cold. It was much colder when Caleb Williams and them came. It was colder and it was perfect out for that game. They just had a great defensive game plan against him. So, but yeah, it was a fun game.
Jeremiah Love, J Love, baby. Thank you for no, Mark.
So yeah, I mean, it was one of those games where you just. I will say it took forever to get into the stands because they wanted the people that wand you down for security purposes not to get wet. Not my problem. Get a rain suit and understand the elements. But it was good. There was a lot of major stars there. Joe Montana was in the house. He feels like he always comes back for this game. And I will also say USC fans hate Lincoln Riley. We had a USC fan directly behind us. It's actually kind of cool. He's a USC fan and his buddy's a Notre Dame fan, and they go to the game each year. They just, go with each other, flip-flop in California or in South Bend. And when they ran that 1 4th down play, he's like, I hate Lincoln Riley. He goes, he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room and that he's going to be able to do all this cute stuff. And it's just like, he's like, just kick the field goal, man. Just kick the field goal. I was like, yeah, Lincoln Riley's an idiot. I mean, he's just an idiot, and he is weak, and he can't withstand the pressure. Michigan, it was not Michigan, and they were able to push them around. But when it came to Illinois, Notre Dame, they were able to push USC around, and it turned out to work in Notre Dame's favor. All right. So who's your guys' Heisman?
Well, hold on. I believe that in soon we are going to have a show revolving around this idea, if I'm correct, Caleb, right? Halfway through the college season, we were going to talk about
yes.
Heisman, and
I think we're going to do that Wednesday.
Okay. So maybe Jerry wants to talk about
Jerry. Yeah, we'll let Jerry talk.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
About his idea.
Mine's been pretty simple. I've already kind of given him those praise. Ty Simpson right now is giving me those Heisman vibes. Obviously, the Florida State game wasn't good, but you now have 4 straight ranked wins where he's looked really, really good. I think he's building a really good resume in terms of wins, but 2 incredible stat lines and solid stat lines in all of those wins. The sneaky one to me still, he pulled it off post touchdown. Diego Pavia is a fun Heisman thought. Can't guarantee you he'll be there, but that's a fun one to think about.
Yeah.
And it's one I'm thinking about too, especially if Vanderbilt continues to impress, continues to be good. If they're in playoff talks by the next month, which is not a guarantee, but I'm not saying that it isn't either, that's a name that's going to get floated around. He has great storyline vibes because we know the Heisman can be a very storyline-esque thing. I'm not as high on Jeremiah Love. The thing I worry about with him is this game is the game he needs to give himself a chance. But again, we've talked about the second half of Notre Dame's schedule. Good teams, but no one that's going to propel you in terms of if you win, you're supposed to beat them. So he needs to have like an insane second half of the season for me to really get there. So those are my 2 off the immediate. But this year's Heisman feels weird, and I feel like if we are at that point where someone's going to break out, and I feel like Ty Simpson's done a really good job of breaking out, or we might be missing somebody. So I'm really curious. I'm really curious too as we kind of go on throughout the year to see what that looks like, and to see who's that star that is kind of having a good first half of the year. We're not talking about too much, isn't getting much love, and then boom, has that second half of the season, big win somewhere. It can kind of push through. But right now, my Heisman is Ty Simpson.
All right, and me and Caleb will shut our mouths because we are going to save this for the show on Wednesday.
We're definitely going to say this for Wednesday, but I will say Creepy Photo says if Ohio State goes undefeated, going to be one of their quarterback or Jeremiah Smith, which would be interesting because I've been watching Pro Football Focus College Edition the last couple of weeks, and they've been talking about how Lemon from USC was the best wide receiver coming in, and not Jeremiah Smith. The talk is kind of worn off. You haven't really heard about him much, which doesn't mean he's a bad player or being good. It's just weird how he came in with so much hype and he's not really been talked about as much. So that'll be interesting. All right, boys, moving on to some sad news out of the NFL that we got today. Former NFL player Doug Martin passed away at the age of 36. The Buccaneers announced it. He's a two-time Pro Bowler, All-Pro in 2015. He played for the Bucs and the Raiders. I remember when he first came in the league out of Boise State. Great rookie year, like 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns. Kind of came not out of anywhere. He was a first-round pick, but it was just interesting. In the heyday, I would say back in like 2014 of like running back still meant something for him to come in as a rookie and kind of tear it up. So it's just crazy to have somebody pass away this young, but also somebody that, was in the prime of us being able to watch him.
Yeah, muscle hamster, dude. He was a phenomenal running back and very sad. Obviously, we don't know exactly all the details, but that's not really what this podcast is about anyway. He was a great player to watch, and prayers for his family and stuff.
Yeah, it's just crazy. 36 is such a young age. So yeah, we're definitely thinking about their family, friends, everyone close here, because we were very blessed as we were growing up to watch Doug Martin have his moments, to have that great career that he did. But that all seems very insignificant in this moment. And as we learn more, I hope that it's always, there's no good way here. There's no good answer. There's no happy point, but all you can hope for in this moment is that their family and friends can find some closure, and again, the thoughts and prayers and love that they need right now. Just tough, just really sad news.
Yep.
No, for sure. Thoughts out to his prayers out to his friends and family as we learn more about his passing. Now to week 7 in the NFL, which is crazy to say, week 7 in the NFL. Some quick storylines here. Bears have won 4 in a row. Hurts has career day and the Eagles win. Rams over the Jags this morning. Mike McDaniel, has he been fired yet? Does anybody know?
I haven't seen that Twitter yet.
Has he been ejected from the plane, Trevor?
And, he would be landing somewhere in South Carolina about now, so I don't think so.
Maybe his capris would maybe
be
like
he's got like parachute. Yeah.
The Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Drake May and Bryce Young and both exited their game, and Jaden Daniels exited his game as well. The Bengals beat the Steelers in Thursday night. The Colts are now 6-1, and the Chargers are still the Chargers.
The game we need to talk about, and I've actually been keeping an eye on as we were doing this podcast, is New York, Denver.
Yeah.
This is a game that New York was up all game, and in the fourth quarter, Denver scored 33 and won 33-32.
That's crazy.
Three quarters of nothing, and then 33 points. What? I'm looking at the ESPN like win probability, as you guys all know, it kind of dips back and forth. Ooh, that's a fun one. That's a fun one.
So looks like the stock market.
Well, and I would say
there's a tariff announcement, I guess, in the middle of the fourth quarter. I don't know what happened there. It's just nuts.
I would say that the probability of them winning wasn't even very high when that drive started, because they started with about 30 seconds left on their side of the field, and then Bo Nix basically marches them all the way down, and then they have no timeouts either. And both of their completions were in the field, so they had to hurry up and spike it. They do get a little bit of love from the refs. There was like an offsides penalty on the spike play, which of course drives your fan base mad when it's a spike and you get called for offsides, but it didn't really matter. Bo Nix looked really good in the fourth quarter, like how Jerry was kind of alluding to, but particularly that final drive. Very impressed with the Broncos here of late, with Kansas City starting to find themselves a little bit more, especially getting Rashee Rice back. Caleb, you know all about that because I'm whooping you with him in fantasy football right now.
It's fine. You like criminals. It's
fine. So that's going to be an interesting AFC West. The Chargers, man. We were very high on the Chargers when the season started, and
they were Week 1 Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, and honestly, this can't all really go to Justin Herbert. Again, I think Justin Herbert is just wasting his career with the Chargers, kind of like how Phillip Rivers did. He's probably a top 5, maybe even higher quarterback in the NFL. And they just can't find a way to get it done, and especially push themselves to that postseason. So, yeah, Eagles finally get a win. They look good. I was pretty happy with them. I love that Zadarius Smith retired, and then we finally win. That made me kind of hate Zadarius Smith. I now have a rivalry with Zadarius Smith. Brandon Graham actually talked about coming out of retirement because of the Zadarius Smith retirement. So we'll see how that goes. I would love that. I'm always down for some BG. He can play like 5 plays a game, dude. That's fine with me.
I have the lowest win probability for the Broncos. It was with 7 minutes and 12 seconds left in the fourth quarter. They were losing 26-8.
Yep.
It was 3rd and 12 at Denver's 47. They had the ball. The win probability was 0.2% for them to win the game. That was the lowest that happened. It was under 1% for quite some time in the fourth quarter. And then, yeah, it went from that to 100%. So that is pretty wild. I will say too, the Cowboys kind of dominated the Commanders. They were able to score some points and they were able to get some stops, but yet again, Jaden Daniels got hurt. The Packers beat the Cardinals. I feel like the Cardinals are like Auburn of the NFL, where they're like in every game. They just end up losing it somehow. He played really good.
Yeah.
No, he played really well. The team that I'm like, there's 2 teams that I'm like kind of very interested in is like the Commanders moving forward as they now sit at 3-4. Kind of where do they go with Jaden Daniels' injury? And then the Vikings, where they're kind of, it's not been really talked about very often, but they've kind of had JJ McCarthy on the shelf for a little bit. And there's really not a whole lot of talk of like when he's going to play, if he's going to play. They're kind of letting Carson Wentz play. And so I think moving forward now with the Vikings and in the NFC North, where the Bears, I mean, we played the Saints, but we're 4-2. There's some momentum. The defense looks very good. We're able to run the ball. You have the Packers, who we all believe is a high Super Bowl threat. And then you also have the Lions. So when being the Vikings, it's going to be very, very interesting, I think, moving forward with them and how they kind of handle like, you're letting Carson Wentz play, but at the end of the day, it's like you did get rid of Sam Darnold for J.J. McCarthy, and you've kind of had him on the shelf the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel like the 1 o'clock window kind of went as people expected for the most part. The only game I had no clue how I was going to go because I just thought it was going to be bad was Miami Browns. Also, there was a wind advisory in that game. I wish it was more chaotic. It was not. I wanted some more chaos there. But this 4 o'clock window, or the 3 o'clock is us
4 o'clock.
No, I think you had it right the first time, Jerry.
Yeah, I know. 4 o'clock.
As a sophisticated folks who get actual sleep here, I'm like you. I
sleep like a baby every night.
Yeah, no, don't get me started on that. Was just chaotic for the most part. The Colts are just good. Let's just call a spade right now. This is not a fluky 6-1 team. They are scoring. Daniel Jones is legit. They are getting the most out of this team. This was a big prove-it year already for Shane Steichen and all this too. So like they're coming out hot. This is not even me thinking that the Chargers are like not good, this and that. They're fine. I just think the Colts are just good. Like they're a force to be reckoned with. They are going to be a tough out no matter where they go. I am very impressed with them. Kind of like on your note, Caleb, I'm very curious with how Washington looks going forward because this was a very Jaden Daniels forward offense. If he's hurt again, and to what degree, that's not good. And I am also very happy with the Monday night slate. I don't want to skip over Sunday Night Football necessarily. A very rare win for me on the Monday night slate for the dual game because I can watch the second game for the most of it. My shift ends at like 10:30 Central Time, 11:30 Eastern. This game will still be on. So
I hate the doubleheaders.
For the most part, I do too, but this is one of the rare times that I'll come home and the second half of a football game will be on and I'll be able to watch it. So personal win for me, probably not good for the sport, but I'm not thinking about the well-being of the NFL.
That's right.
Is not my concern. But really 3 interesting matchups to end our week with, or end our football week with. The Falcons looked really, really good last week against the Bills. Much needed bye for Buffalo, mind you. And then we're coming out Monday. That's a heater. Baker Mayfield's been fantastic.
Yeah.
It is going to be a very good game.
And Detroit keeps getting themselves in primetime games, and I'm very curious how that looks. They did not look great on Sunday night, but I also think we've kind of said the Chiefs starting to look like the Chiefs again. Surprise. And then two teams that are like good, but we have like our own questions and concerns about, both in Houston and in Seattle. Like two solid teams. Seattle absolutely pushed Tampa Bay to the brink, like everyone does, but looked fantastic. That was a fun game. And Houston can be good. Like, I don't think they're bad. I don't know if they're good. Like, so it feels like a weird measuring stick game, but I don't know what I'm going to learn from it yet. Because both those teams I have a lot of questions about. Both have had good moments and sometimes just look like bad teams at the same time. Like,
yeah,
very weird vibes, but a good way to end our football week.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles were able to throw the ball, which was, interesting because last year they ran the ball, and this year it's like, do they throw to open up the run maybe, or kind of what happens there? I still don't think we know a lot about most of these teams. I will say the Bears are 4-2, but they started 4-2 last year, and we all know how that worked out after that. I hope that doesn't happen, but it's a very like college football. There's a lot of parity. It's a lot of goofiness. But yeah, I mean, who would have thought that the Colts would be sitting there with one loss, 6-1, with Daniel Jones as their quarterback? And they're playing very well. Their defense is good to beat up on the Chargers. I am looking very much forward to the Bucs-Lions game, even though I hate the doubleheaders on Monday night. I think it's the dumbest thing ever created in the world. And then Falcons-49ers seems a little gross to me, but that will be interesting. Is McCorkle playing at quarterback, or is Brock playing at quarterback? Is my question.
Yeah, I think Brock's hurt.
And then
Brock is out, so yeah, it's got to be McCorkle.
It will be interesting. Is George Kittle playing for the 49ers? Is he back? I think he's able to come back this week. I don't know if he will be back. So that will be very interesting. And then, the Falcons have been that team that's kind of like they've had primetime games, and they've actually played very well in them. So it'll be interesting to see how they shape up this week.
Like, what was it? Who did the Falcons play early this year? And it was just the most disgusting.
Vikings. It was the Vikings.
Yeah. So you have that game, and then you also have like 30-point Vikings, not 30-point Falcons.
Where Bijan just decided to have a day against the Bills.
Very confused. Yeah. And also, I just never discount San Francisco. They are, to me, diet Chiefs in terms of like the sense that you don't count them out. They are always hurt. They're always banged up. They're going through quarterbacks like, the receiving core is something every week, and they still put up like 25 and have a decent defense. Like, at some point, the injury bug should catch up in theory, right? Usually catch up in the playoffs, but like, I'm very curious at this Sunday night matchup because San Francisco just finds a way to keep every game close. Like, and I don't trust the Falcons necessarily, but they look good. But that also just gives me prime, like Michael Penix decides to play terribly. It doesn't make any sense. And it's like 7-6 again.
Yeah.
With like a blocked field goal.
Yep.
I just looked. Mike McDaniels is still employed by the Dolphins. I was just like, we'll see how that goes. I will say I did forget something in the USC game. It was pretty funny. So the guy that was tailgates next to buddies I tailgate with, he likes to have flags. He's like a big flag guy. He always has like funny flags. Like he has like 6 or 7. Sometimes he has like 15 of these different flags. Like he's all about it. He'll get like a new flag all the time. When like the Diddy stuff happened, he had Diddy flags. It was all over the place. So he had a flag set up. It was a 3-tier flag set up. It was mugshot of O.J. Simpson.
Nice.
And it said USC class of 1969. He had one of Aunt Becky from Full House.
Oh, nice.
That's a good poll.
Women's Rowing Scholarship Club, faithful donor level. And then this last one, he had Mark Sanchez with penalty roughing the trucker.
Oh, man.
If I had $1 for every time people stopped and took pictures of it, I would be a billionaire.
That's awesome.
Dude.
He got there, he starts putting them up, and like I was like, okay, OJ, okay, Aunt Becky, okay. I'm like, Mark Sanchez. I'm like, that was wild, but it was just to me, I was just like, oh my God, this guy
awesome.
is hilarious.
Yeah, perfect.
But I did forget about that until the end here, but it was just wild. But no, it was a good weekend. I'd say both my teams won. I feel good. Moving in, Notre Dame's on a bye, so that'll be good there. Wednesday, me and Trevor will be doing like mid-season stuff. I'm trying to get Sabrina Hoover on to talk about Notre Dame, kind of their midway point as now they've gotten over the hump of USC and have some they have some quality ACC opponents. I think some of the teams on their back end are getting overlooked, I'd say. Pitt being one of those. They also have to play Navy, who's undefeated, so that will be interesting. It's a night game for some reason, but see how that one goes.
Bless you.
But,
Thank you.
Jerry, you're not as red now.
Yeah, well, it's probably because we started this podcast when there was light outside. Now it's dark.
Now it's dark. Well, I mean, it also does get dark at like 6 o'clock now. So
yeah, we're in that time of year.
Eastern or Central?
Eastern Standard Time, the greatest time ever created. The one that like Wall Street runs on and like all the like,
Your mistake, not mine.
It's not a mistake. It's great. I feel like I get a head start on the day than you.
Dude, I hated that when I was in South Bend because it's just so close to the border. Like it makes more sense in New York and when we go out east, obviously. But like, especially because I was working morning show at some point, a 10 p.m. sunset when you have to be in at 11 o'clock is terrible. like great when I was working human hours because you could golf.
Human hours.
Very pro that. But like, man, morning show in South Bend is such a pain for the sole fact that I would get to work at 11. I'm like, oh yeah, the sun just set like 30 minutes ago. This sucks. Then I leave still dark. Like this sucks. Like what are we doing? But
no, I will say like where we live in Michigan, we probably should be in Central Time. But I think that Michigan as a state kind of wholly, like Detroit wanted to stay with New York. So I think like historically the whole state of Michigan was like, we'll stay together. I don't know if the parts of the UP are in Central Time, which I would take a guess that they are. But yeah, the one that really used to be goofy is when Indiana and Michigan, we would do daylight savings time and they wouldn't. So it would be like an hour difference to drive 15 minutes and it would be completely different times. My parents talk about that all the time where you could go to a restaurant and it'd be 6 o'clock our time, but 5 o'clock like Mishawaka, South Bend time. And you could like easily get into a restaurant because it hadn't hit yet. So that was even goofier. So
that is goofy.
Now we just argue about which time zone is better. Eastern, Central. Maybe Mountain West time's the best, Jerry.
Whoa.
You guys complain about waking up for other things. You want to watch a 9 o'clock in the morning football game? You're complaining about waking up for.
I have all these NFL games at 9:30. I mean, what's the difference? All these overseas, they're shipping our sport across the world.
God.
I mean, that's just.
Kills us with tariffs in the NFL games. Oh no!
Yeah.
No, it's just it like every now and then it's cool. Every week it's like, are we serious?
Caleb, what's your thought on the halftime show?
I love it. He's American. I love it. I'm all about
talk about that. Yeah.
We talked about it. He's American. I have no problems with it. As long as it wasn't Tay-Tay, I'm golden.
Dude, me and my girlfriend did a deep dive on some Taylor Swift songs recently. They're the worst songs ever written.
Yeah. Jerry, didn't you see Taylor Swift?
I saw her in Ireland. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Finessed the whole week in Ireland for a 3-hour concert.
That's awesome. Actually, that might be worth it.
It was. You know how much Guinness was in my system? It was amazing.
I'm not a Tay-Tay guy. Some people are. I'm not. It's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Well, the hater's gonna hate.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, people have been hating on me this week, so it's just the way that it is. But yeah, so the gang was here today. It'll be me and Trevor on Wednesday, and then Jerry will return with us next Sunday.
The return of Jerry.
We're shaking it off until next week.
Oh, here we go. See, this is what people do, and they just ignore it. It's terrible.
It's perfect.
No,
Thank
it's
you.
not. It's god awful. We're going to end this program on that note. As always, thanks for watching.